Hi, everyone. Thanks for tuning in today. We're going to give this just another minute before we go ahead and get started. Okay, let's get started, and hopefully we'll get a few more people calling in as we get through these introductions. So, hi, welcome. My name is Kathy Hoverman, and I'm moderating today's webinar from the ASCE's Environmental and Water Resources Institute and AFS's Bioengineering Section's Joint Committee on Fisheries Engineering and Science. This webinar is being recorded and will be available for future viewing on our YouTube channel. The series began in 2015 to share information on aquatic organism passage, dam removal, fisheries improvement, community and stakeholder engagement, and related topics. Since our inception, we've provided free quarterly webinars, with today being the final webinar of 2023. You can find our prior webinars and sign up for our email list on our website. Just use the webinar tab. The Joint Committee does more than just webinars. If you're interested in becoming and learning more about the Joint Committee and what all we do with our different task groups, feel free to reach out to our executive team listed here. Or if you know anybody else who's on the committee, feel free to reach out to any of us who participate. Few reminders, the BES's Education Committee have developed several products available to help educate folks who are kind of either getting into the community of practice or have been here but have maybe changed some of their roles and responsibilities. So different opportunities to learn and educate yourself while you're moving through a project. So feel free to again jump onto our website. The link is found through there. To get to the training portal and look at some of the different opportunities there, as well as the checklist. The 2024 Fish Passage Conference is coming up pretty soon. Registration will be open in a matter of weeks. It's in Quebec City, Canada. It's co-hosted with the International Symposium on Eco-Hydraulics. It's the first time we've collaborated between these two entities. So looking to make it a little extra exciting for 2024. So we'll hope to see you in May in Quebec City. So as 2023 is coming to an end, we're looking forward into 2024 for our next set of webinars. The first one of the year has been scheduled with Eric Reardon on invasive species, environmental and infrastructure history in Lake Champlain. And we do have two others planned. First one being a decade of building to take down 4 Klamath River dams. Kind of an update on the status, the timeline to get to the dam removals and where they are in their current status at the time of the presentation. And then also talking about removing barriers through mitigation banking means. The dates on those two talks have not yet been scheduled. They're still in development, as well as our 4th talk of the year. We have some requests out and just waiting for a confirmation back on those. So we look forward to bringing you another year of talks and information on this type of project. A quick shout out to my cohort webinar task committee members listed on the side there. They just do a great job of bringing people to the table so that we can all have these great collaborative discussions. And with that, I'd like to introduce you to today's speakers. We have Kristen Rivard. She's the Oregon Director of Trout Unlimited. She's a seasoned professional with expertise in geology and environmental sciences, holding an MS from the University of Washington and degrees from Duke University's Nicholas School of the Environment. She played a pivotal role in river conservation as the founding executive director of the Klamath Basin Rangeland Trust and as the chair of the Klamath River Compact Commission alongside her work at TU. Also, Liz Ransom, she's the Salmon SuperHwys director. She has a bachelor's in zoology from Oregon State University. She spent much of her early career working along the Oregon coast in fisheries for both the Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife and the U.S. Forest Service. And she's been with Trout Unlimited for 3 years now. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Kristen and Liz. Thank you all for being here, and look forward to what you have to say.
Thank you. Liz is going to be kind and drive all of our slides today, so I'll wait for her to get that up. But while she's pulling it up to show the presentation, I just wanted to say super excited to be here of all the work that we get to do across Oregon. This is one of my absolute favorite projects to talk about and stories to tell because it has so many unique elements to it. So yeah, we're here to talk about the Salmon SuperHwys, which is a project to restore passage for fish habitat and communities at a landscape scale on Oregon's north coast. Go ahead and skip to the next slide. So the problems that we face up on the north coast are not dissimilar to things we see across much of the landscapes in the west. Many barriers to fish passage scattered across the landscape. Of course, on the coast of Oregon, this is an area with a really high density stream network because of the amount of the precipitation falling as rainfall and just the overall amount of precipitation we receive there, and a long history of development and variable land uses. So many fish passage barriers, most of them are undersized and perched culverts, as you see here. But these challenges, of course, go beyond just passing fish. And with climate change, the magnitude, frequency, and intensity of precipitation events continues to just go upward almost exponentially, it feels like sometimes. Of course, that's not the case, but that's what it feels like. And so these undersized culverts have huge impacts on the road infrastructure and other human infrastructure associated with flooding as well. Next slide, Liz. To orient you a bit to the geography, you can see here on this map, this program is focused on the 6 rivers that drain into Tillamook and the Stucca Bays, again on the north coast of the Oregon. And there are 6 species of anadromous fish that utilize this area: Chinook, steelhead, coho and chum salmon, sea-run cutthroat, and Pacific lamprey. Notably, Oregon coast coho are ESA listed here as threatened, but have huge potential for recovery and even rumblings that maybe someday could be delisted. So this is an area where investments in habitat restoration are really impactful. What you can see in the map is at the outset of the Salmon SuperHwys project, this is the stream network, and all of those red lines are, of course, areas where fish passage was obstructed. So you can see the vast majority of fish passage habitat was not available or accessible early on when this program was started. Next slide, Liz. This part of the state has a pretty high diversity of land use. There's a huge amount of agriculture, especially in the lowlands and estuarine areas. Most of it is dairy farming. A lot of you are probably familiar with Tillamook brands of yogurt and cheeses, which is of course produced here. There's also state and private timberland and huge amounts of the timber industry, commercial and recreational fishing, as well as some federal land ownership, notably the Siuslaw National Forest lands. So in order to work to address the number of barriers you see on the landscape, it's really necessary to have buy-in and collaboration with the entire diversity of land ownership in order to be successful. I would note, though, that this is also a relatively rural, somewhat isolated part of the state that's also chronically underfunded with respect to their tax base. So the ability to really maintain and invest in infrastructure on the regular scales necessary is very difficult in a place like this. So looking for ways that we can collaborate all together to solve these problems is really beneficial. Next slide, Liz. So this program started off in very much the traditional way that I see in other places. There's a bunch of people that care about fish, from watershed councils, state and federal agencies, conservation groups, and they're out on the landscape beginning to identify and map all of these barriers that we have to fish passage. And that was happening here in this geography, and actually on a more accelerated pace than a lot of other places. This was before my time being involved in the program, so I'm really speaking to past history, not my own work. I should be clear about that. I've only been involved for about the last 6 years with the program. But they came together and figured out, it would be really beneficial for all of these people doing inventories to coordinate and share that data and pull it together in a single place, and then begin to prioritize those investments and come up with a framework to make decisions about which of these barriers should be addressed. Again, almost exclusively from a fisheries standpoint. So they turned to use of the APAS model, which allows you to do exactly those things. Next slide. So you can determine where on the landscape fish passage restoration could make the most impact on fish populations. The team desired to optimize the amount of habitat gained per funding invested, and develop a portfolio of projects that would not only reconnect habitat at a landscape scale, but could do so cohesively that you could have measurable biological outcomes at a population level, which is of course difficult to track given variability in all of the elements. But that's the objective that the team had for success. Next slide. So the inputs into the APAS model were the well over 300 barriers that this team had identified across the landscape. You input the estimated cost of addressing and remediating that barrier. So they looked at the projects that had been completed, what the relative costs of those were, and associated an estimated cost for every single project that would be all 300 plus barriers. You identify the amount of habitat upstream of the barrier and which species would utilize that habitat. So of course you would have different miles of habitat that would be open that vary depending on the 6 species that you're interested in. And it's also geographically referenced. So things like, hey, if you remove this barrier, you'll get 5 miles of habitat, but there's another one just down below it. So if you don't do both projects, you wouldn't, reap that benefit. So that's one of the great values, is that there is geographic referencing within it. And what you see on this plot, the y-axis is the amount of species-weighted habitat that would be reconnected with each project completed. And the x-axis is the cost of doing that in millions of dollars. And so what you're really seeing is that to reconnect 100% of the fish habitat on the landscape would be, well over $100 million. All of this data is back from 2014. So, in today's inflated costs for construction materials and construction services, of course, it's even higher than that. But you note that you can get to 95% habitat reconnection at a much, much lower cost point, which is pretty darn good to target 95%. So the result from the model is that 93 barriers were ranked, prioritized, and selected that would get us to 95% of the historic fish habitat. Can you bump it, Liz? So shown as a pie chart, the difference between 95% of the habitat and 100% of the habitat, again, back in 2014 dollars, is a cost of just 34 million versus 170 million to do all of it. And at the pace that the work, people believe could get done, that's a 10-year initiative versus a 70-year or longer initiative. And so that's how this goal was established. Next slide. So, of course, doing this is great that you have your plan and you know what you want to do. But again, you need buy-in from the community, since so many of these barriers are either county roads or located on private lands that you need to have the support of the community to be successful. And so the team came together and realized that that wasn't what they were great at. I think the team had just a terribly wonky name. It was like the North Coast Fish Passage Inventory and Prioritization Assessment Team or something, like that. I don't remember the exact name, but it was not something that was compelling and exciting. So they turned to marketing experts to figure out how they could increase the ability to secure funding and increase the engagement from the community. And one of my favorite things that came out of that is the really cool logo that you see, looking at the interstate highway kind of logo, but those Salmon SuperHwys logos go up on each of the projects, and there's actually a lot of people steal them out in the community because they want to hang them on their living room wall or things like that. But it's a great logo that gets people really excited and energized. The marketing team helped develop a great tagline, which is connecting communities one fish at a time. That again pulls together that this is all about people, not just fish. And the final recommendation is how people connect to this work is through storytelling and storytelling about people. So a huge part of the early time was pulling together the stories of all the different parts of the community that need to be a part of this and getting that information out. Next slide, Liz. So here's an example that's, a fishing guide who tells his story, and he talks about how grateful he is to fish in this place, how he wants his kids to be able to do that in the future, and that he's, of course, really supportive in investing in these projects because it's great for him, his family, and the next generation, and helps support the local economy. So it's coming from someone that, again, in a relatively small rural community, people know and connect with, and telling the story from that individual's human perspective. Next one, Liz. And, I think about it though, commercial and recreational fishing guides, there's an obvious connection to fish passage there, but also making sure we talked about the benefits from other segments of the community, like the timber industry, or in this case, a dairy farmer. And here he's talking about that if these undersized culverts cause flooding in the roads and the roads become impassable or even worse, catastrophically fail, as they have in some places, then feed can't get in for the cattle, milk can't get out, and that jeopardizes the entire economy for the area. So he's really supportive of these fish passage projects that have the nexus to the transportation infrastructure for his business. So again, telling that human story. Next slide, Liz. And so with all of these new stories, the logo, the team marched out and set the audacious goal of, again, reopening 95% of the habitat, which is 185 miles of stream in a 10-year period of time. And Liz is charged with actually getting all of that work done and coordinating the partnership. So I'll turn over to her to talk about implementation.
Thank you, Kristen. Yeah, so moving on to project implementation here. So from design to implementation, our partnership works together, working towards a shared vision and goal of connecting our waterways and creating a safe transportation system for Tillamook County. Our partnership is a great part of this. We have many partners that come together to create the Salmon SuperHwys project. They include local entities, state, federal, and NGO. You can see them all listed here. And then to jump into an example here of kind of some ways we all come together. This is Samson Creek. It's one of the projects that we completed this last summer. Samson Creek runs under Trask River Road, which is a county-owned road and the only paved road up into the Trask River Valley. And Trask River Valley has many private residents living up there. It's a huge recreation area for the county and is also a connection for a large range of logging opportunities. So the road is very essential for all these people and for emergency services to be able to access the area as well. So you can see here that we were able to reconnect 1.3 miles of anadromous fish habitat with this project. On the left here are the before pictures. The culvert was extremely undersized. They had in fact built this wing wall structure of concrete to try to help prevent with the erosion that was often occurring. And you can see that there's a jump there at the outlet. We replaced that culvert with a approximately 40-foot bridge to fully restore the connection and habitat there. And so as the project manager on this project, I worked very closely with Tillamook County. They have a team of engineers that I worked with from the beginning. They were involved with all of the designs. I have no engineering background, so having them there to step through the process was very essential, through designs and then through overseeing construction as well. We were both often on site during construction with them checking off all of the essential points of the bridge construction. There. Great. Yeah, so our partnership approach is a unique aspect of Salmon SuperHwys. We have a collaborative planning process. This includes quarterly meetings to discuss project prioritization and project progress. We can come together and help each other with hangups, whether that be funding or something on the ground. It's a local connection of people that can help each other out. We also, with this partnership, can create very diverse technical teams for each project, including biologists, engineers, other interested project managers to bring projects forward. With this team, we share the responsibility for technical resources and permit support. So for example, often we'll work with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service or the U.S. Forest Service with one of their programmatics to help with permitting for the projects. We try to take advantage of that opportunity whenever it arises. Tillamook County also helps out a lot, again, coming back to the engineering support. We work really closely with them on projects that are on their property, but they also come in and assist when we're needing engineering advice on any other projects on private land or whatnot. Landowner coordination, we work with other local organizations on this, often watershed councils or the Tillamook Estuaries Partnership will step in to help with landowner coordination. It really starts with our quarterly meetings and deciding if we have a local connection to any of the landowners we're hoping to reach out to. Sometimes the county is a huge part in this as well. Our partnership has a shared vision and goal of reconnecting waterways and improving the transportation system in Tillamook County. One of my favorite ways that we come together and remind each other of these goals for every project is our fish salvages. We have enough biologists and everything on our team that we don't contract out the salvages. We always do them ourselves. It's a fun opportunity for us to all be in the field, get some hands-on work, see some of the animals that we are saving. It's a great day. We have an email list of everybody that's interested. And as you know, sometimes we don't know until the day before that the salvage is happening. So we keep everybody up to date and they jump out if they can to help out. So yeah, good example there. We also work as a group on funding opportunities. Many opportunities come up for many agencies, and together we can strategically move forward with projects that fit the goals of each opportunity. So for example, this could mean creating a package of projects that are in a certain stage of development in a geographic area or have a greater benefit to the public, etc., whatever that grant goal is. We can also decide who is best to apply for these opportunities. Often it's the project manager or TU for a group of projects. But we also recently received a large grant to Tillamook County from the Federal Highways opportunity to cover many of our projects. All right. And so our progress so far, you can see on the map there, all of our completed projects within the Salmon SuperHwys region. As Kristen shared, our region is made up of the Tillamook Bay, Sand Lake, and the Stucca watersheds. So as of today, we have completed 50 projects, connected 129 miles. We've leveraged 19 million in funding, created 314 jobs. And as always, our partnership is building this track record for community support and funder support through all of these projects completed. Okay, and then benefits. A major benefit to all of these projects is the climate resilience this is building for the community. Our projects restore natural stream function. So the whole system works all the way from the headwaters to the ocean. Keeping the system whole means ensuring sediment, wood, and nutrient transport maintains diversity and is functioning throughout the full extent of spawning and rearing habitat. With climate change, warmer temperatures and bigger storms are predicted for our region. So with these projects, we're restoring access to a diversity of habitat, including cold water refugia and off-channel habitat and velocity refugia, all essential habitats to survive the climate change in our area. Great. We are also creating a stronger transportation system to hold up to climate change. Much of Tillamook County's road infrastructure was built in the 50s and 60s with large amounts of timber money coming in. That amount of money is a thing of the past, and Tillamook County is left with a roads team of 3 and minimal funds to make improvements. With our help, they can actually upgrade culverts before they fail, and they have many hundreds even of culverts on the brink of failure. All of our bridges are built to accommodate high flows. We build to at least 1.5 times the active channel flow and 100-year flood levels for each structure. Having this longevity greatly decreases road maintenance. Keeping these roads open keeps Tillamook County's industry and economy moving. All right, and to wrap things up, I have one more quote from our landowner, Sam Mulder. We replaced a culvert on his property with a bridge. And he says, at first I was skeptical of how smoothly this process could go with so many partnering organizations working together, but they've got it so dialed. They include me in the planning and construction, stuck to what they said, and did a great job on the new bridge. My property and the fish in my creek are far better off with this improvement. All right, and thank you, everybody. I have our contact info listed here, and I'll hand it back off for questions, I believe.
Yeah, thank you so much, Liz and Kristen. We've got a couple questions already started in the chat. So if you haven't found the chat, you might need to slide over and click the more option there to get to your chat window. But go ahead and drop some questions in there. Kristen has answered a few of these, but we'll go ahead and ask them anyways, and just give live answers so that everybody is sure to see the question or hear the question and hear the answer. So the first question that came up was specific to a slide talking about cost control. So the question was, what cost control / saving measures in engineering and construction? So Kristen, why don't you go ahead and repeat your answer that you gave there?
Yeah, and Liz might have more to add. I think the big opportunities that I see are the ability to have a diversity of technical expertise around the design of the project so we can really get to a good value engineering approach on them. We're also able to coordinate our bid packages. So if there's projects that are in close proximity to each other, you can bid those together to save on mobilization, demobilization costs. And Liz could probably even speak, you know, for some of the county road projects, we did 2 last year on Trask River Road. She showed one of them and could reutilize the temporary bridge that we needed in place to maintain, you know, the transportation line for both projects. So you can get a good amount of cost savings, both from having a diversity of expertise within the partnership that you have, you know, available at your beck and call, as well as coordinating the efforts that we have. Liz, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, no, I think you hit most of the key features. We're really looking at now, because we were able to have a huge cost savings utilizing those bridge beams as a temporary bridge and then the permanent bridge for 2 projects really close together. So looking at where we can, yeah, put projects in motion together is a big thing right now.
All right, great. So the next question, what is the average time of restoration projects from start to finish?
Yeah, and as I said in my response there, it is, of course, it's super variable. Projects, you know, vary in size, scale, location. Sometimes it takes a lot longer to get the landowner on board or some of the surrounding community members. So it varies. I'd say typically 1 to 2 years. And as Liz showed, we've completed 50 projects in the last 9 years as a partnership.
Excellent. All right, this is a quantification question. Approximately how many spawning salmon does the reopened habitat support?
Liz, do you?
Yeah, that's a really hard number to quantify. The runs change from year to year with the numbers coming in due to many factors, ocean conditions, everything. So there's some years where it could be a lot of fish, and some years where water levels are lower and not as many get up there. So that makes that a really hard number to quantify, I say.
Yeah, and I would just add the partnership does not monitor. We referenced that a goal is to support recovery at a population scale, but this partnership isn't directly monitoring at that level. So we're dependent on NOAA and U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and the other federal agencies for the monitoring that they do, Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife as well. So, you know, when we assess project effectiveness, we're looking to make sure that the structures and the work that's done is functioning as designed, and also validating that we see fish moving effectively, you know, through the restored passage. But we aren't able to have enough funding to do, you know, multi-year population monitoring on all of these projects.
And that also being said, one of the things I think I left off on Samson Creek is we did just have our first big water event and saw fish coho passing through. So that was really exciting. We're always thrilled when we do get an opportunity out there and see that happening. So
Yeah, that's great. All right, moving down the list, how many of the culvert replacement projects require upstream or downstream grade control?
I would say a majority require some sort of grade control. Not all of them though. There is a few that don't, but most of them have included in the stream simulations grade control points, both above and below the structure, depending on the gradient of the stream, really.
Okay, the next one, I think Kristen partially answered this, but I'll just give you a little more space if you wanted to flesh that out anymore. But has there been any monitoring associated with these projects to see if they are reoccupying the newly opened habitats?
Yeah, I don't think I have anything more to add. Again, it's focused on, you know, whether the design criteria are met and whether fish are in fact moving through it, as opposed to a full population assessment over multiple years, which we would love to do. But
yeah, you mentioned that you rely kind of on NOAA or the state to do that monitoring. Do you know if in fact that they have done that, or are you just like, maybe they will at some point?
Well, for population scale monitoring, yes. For, you know, as-built assessments and things like that, we do some of that. The partnership does some of that. And Liz, maybe you can speak more, but
yeah. We work with the Forest Service specifically has a team that comes in. We try for every 2 years to really analyze our projects and make sure they have a protocol to determine that it's passable for all species. And so we run each of our projects through that protocol after a year or two after it's built, and then yeah, continuing down the line.
Okay, great. This is an amazing success story. Is the first statement there. Could you say more about your prioritization methods? Here in the Southeast, we have similar connectivity issues and funding is limited, so prioritization can be a challenge.
Yeah, well, our model is a huge help. That's where we start, and then obviously we look into we need the landowner cooperation as well. What it really came down to was starting a few projects and showing how we can work together. And then we now have this momentum where most people will trust us moving forward, and we look for the best opportunities on the list to go for it and take advantage of our partners and what availability they have. I don't know, Kristen, if you have anything more to add to that.
No, I think that's right. The biggest challenge, I think, to doing prioritization well is having the input data that you need and all of the information that you need, and then making decisions about what's good enough. You know, at the end of the day, how good of an estimate do you need on cost? How perfect does your coverage need to be? And being fully transparent, we've found, you know, since that initial prioritization work, there were some areas of the landscape that people didn't have access to. So over time, we have identified some additional barriers, and particularly tight gates that weren't fully included in the first assessment. So we did, is it 3 or 4 years ago now, rerun the model with that additional information that we've been able to come up with since. So, you know, don't want it to be just so single-minded that we miss the change and the opportunities. It's a work in progress, and you know, whether it's 93 barriers or 89 or 98 is, you know, not necessarily the most important factor. It's that you're tackling the majority of the high impact projects as quickly as you can in a thoughtful way.
Okay, so another question we have here, and you might have to go back to one of those first graphs that talks about, asks about the carrots to convince people to go from that 90 to 95% on your graph, since it looked like it doubles the cost for that gap change.
Yeah, I really appreciate that's something that I've wrestled with coming into it. And I have to say the decision for what the target should be was made before I was working on this project. It was before my time at Trout Unlimited. So I can't speak to directly what those conversations were about why 95 instead of 90. What I will say is that, again, kind of my last answer, in practice, we're probably not going to be able to do every single project that's on the target list. There are, like any effort, going to be the couple projects that you have sort of intractable challenges, and maybe over time you can get through. But the goal here is, again, to have a good list of what are the highest priority and most impactful projects, have a strong goal out there that the community and funders can get excited about and work towards implementing. The cost estimates, you know, they were just that, they're estimates. The numbers I showed you were 2014 dollars. How much different types of projects cost and the materials has changed a lot over the time frame. We loved the goal of getting them all done in 10 years. We're 9 years in, and we've made well over, I think we're at 2/3 of the habitat that we've targeted is reopened. More than half of the projects are done, but we won't get all of them done in this final year of the target. So I think it's a really valid point. Exactly, where's the point where, like, we've done enough, this is a success, and we should focus on other limiting factors. And you could debate, you know, exactly where that right inflection point is. But my main answer would be, these are estimates from a snapshot in time that provide a really good pathway and roadmap, but are far from perfect until you get into actually doing and designing a project.
Yeah, that's interesting. So that's it for questions that we have listed, but I have one I wanna drop in here. And that's kind of on that you have the Tillamook industry in this watershed. And do you think you would have had as successful of time in coordinating with these owners without kind of that important industry kind of anchoring the community together? Because not all communities have that. So like, you know, was that a key to the success here, or maybe not as important?
I do think it was a key to the success. I think being able to work with those industries and show how we are helping them out at the same time, and working together for a shared goal, it has really brought us forward a lot in that. And Kristen, you can even talk to how that helped before I was around too.
Yeah, I mean the support from the Tillamook County Creamery Association and other, the other partners that work closely with the ag community has been really important, as well as coordination with the timber industry and their willingness to address barriers in an effective way that matches other work that's happening in those areas. I think, though, anywhere, if you put the effort into identifying what are those common values, you can build collaborative partnerships like this, no matter how intractable the challenges are. I see it again and again in different places, taking the time to talk to people, understand what they need, why they care, what's in it for them, what are the challenges they have that, you might not understand with your particular objective. I think it's absolutely possible to do this in different places. The county's support is incredibly beneficial and provides a huge amount of cost savings as well to have the expertise that they bring. But I think you can build successful partnerships with the right group anywhere that you want to if you really put that effort into it.
Yeah, that's great. Appreciate that. Okay, I think that's all we've got for questions. I will say that, Kristen did mention that their signs were so cool and popular, people stole them. So I've heard that as a result, you all created your shop, that you then were selling products with this. I don't currently see that you can buy the sign, but that's very cool. If anybody listening wants to support the project, there's some other swag you can get with the cool sign that's on it. So that's great. So community connection and good marketing goes a long way. All right. Well, congratulations on this project, the success that you've had, and getting this next year to meet your goals as close as possible. So, and thank you for being here and talking to us about it. Appreciate your time. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
We'll see you in 2024.